I don't know if you've seen this, but Ancelotti has been asked a bunch of times about the difference between Brazilian and European football. Here in Brazil, that topic is always up for debate and people love to compare the two. Usually, the narrative is that Europeans are tactically superior, and many say they're physically stronger too. But honestly, in recent years, the physical side has improved a lot here, and tactics are catching up too, even if a bit slower. But in the middle of all that, Carleto dropped a line saying the big advantage of Brazilian football, and Brazilian players, is that they're genetically superior. Like, Brazilians are just born with more talent, a natural touch for technique and improvisation. From my point of view, as a Brazilian and a psychologist, that idea is a bit off. And in this video, I'll show you why I think so, not just based on my own opinion, but backed by what experts have been saying. Why Brazilian talent is cultural, not genetic. Experts in the field are clear. None of the 27,000 human genes mapped so far determine specific sports talent. There's no such thing as a football gene or a basketball gene. What actually makes the difference is culture, coaching, encouragement, and consistent practice. Talent is built, not inherited. Think about it. Since they're little, Brazilian kids are playing with balls of every size, in any kind of space, which naturally fuels interest. But just having a ball around isn't enough. Let's dig deeper into the whole cultural side of Brazil, the so-called land of football. The futsal culture. Back in the day, the streets and pickup games were the real schools of Brazilian legends. Playing barefoot on dirt lots, beaches, or side streets was just part of daily life, a fun and free way to develop creativity and skill. But the real leap happens when kids get into futsal between ages 7 and 12, training several times a week. I was one of those kids too. Didn't work out for me, otherwise I'd be on the pitch now instead of telling you this. That environment changes everything. Futsal is played in tight spaces, with a heavier ball that barely bounces. The result? Kids get up to 6 times more touches per minute than in regular football. That constant repetition sharpens technique like crazy. Ball control, quick dribbles, sharp passes, and instant decision-making become second nature. No wonder most of the flashy dribbles we see in football actually come from futsal root. That's where the trademark Brazilian traits are born. The Portuguese term ginga, the improvisation, the creativity in one-on-one situations. Futsal forces players to figure things out under constant pressure, building a technical toolbox that later explodes on the big field. It's no coincidence that names like Ronaldinho, Neymar, Ronaldo, Iniesta, and even Messi all played futsal before shining on the pitch. They've all said in interviews that a lot of their style and confidence came from that base. By the way, Portugal and Spain also have strong futsal traditions, which explains their refined technique too. So, futsal isn't just a training step, it's a cultural school, almost a rite of passage, shaping entire generations of players. The factory of talent, 210+ million people. Another big factor is Brazil's massive population and how much football dominates here. With over 210 million people and football as the #1 passion, you've got a massive pool of kids dreaming of becoming players. The base of the pyramid is huge. Millions playing in streets, schools, and academies, with thousands moving up through small and big clubs. Naturally, that volume increases the odds of producing exceptional talent. It's no surprise that Brazil is the world's top exporter of footballers. A CIS report found that no country has more players abroad than Brazil, 1,202 Brazilians playing overseas, way ahead of France in second place with 781. Pretty much every big European club has at least one Brazilian, often several, not to mention those spread across Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. This talent exodus shows both the quality produced here and the sheer supply of players competing worldwide. As Ancelotti himself admitted, Brazil will never have a generation problem. The challenge is organizing the talent, not finding it. Of course, a big population alone doesn't guarantee excellence. India, China, and the US are massive too, but don't have the same football tradition. In those places, other sports dominated historically, and there wasn't much investment in development. Brazil, on the other hand, combines huge numbers with fanatical passion and a deep competitive structure. Thousands of clubs, youth tournaments, scouts everywhere, and a culture that sees football as a path to social mobility. That unique mix explains why, among the world's most populous nations, Brazil stands out as a true talent factory. And even smaller countries like Uruguay prove that it's not just numbers that matter, but also tradition and strong development networks. Personality and style. Creativity versus pragmatism. Brazilian football values art and improvisation, while European football leans more toward discipline and efficiency. That clash was clear with Antony, who got roasted in England for doing excessive dribbles people thought were pointless. He defended himself by saying, "We're known for our art." This cultural clash shows the tension between aesthetics and results. In Brazil, flair is celebrated. In Europe, a dribble only flies if it serves the play. As analyst Paulo Vinicius Qualo put it, in Brazil, sometimes the spectacle takes priority, while in Europe there can be a certain disdain for dribbling just for show. The sweet spot is recognizing both the beauty of the move and its usefulness for the team. Technical development, Brazil versus Europe. If in the past Brazil was synonymous with superior technique, today that gap is much smaller. European powers invested heavily in youth development, professionalizing academies and drilling fundamentals from an early age. Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands now churn out generations with incredible ball control, passing, and tactical awareness. Just look at players like Xavi, Iniesta, or more recently Vitinha. In short, Europe caught up, and now also produces top-class technical players. Even Ancelotti admits the gap isn't there anymore. In his eyes, the main difference now is style. Europeans lean on physical intensity and rhythm, while South Americans, especially Brazilians, still shine for their refined touch and flair. Why saying it's in the genes can be dangerous. Sure, genetics matter in everything we do, but reducing Brazilian football talent to genetics is risky. It takes the spotlight off hard work and discipline. Like Professor Julio Garganta points out, talent is a conquest, built through coaching and constant practice, not some magic gift. This kind of talk can make athletes think success is just about being naturally gifted, and that kills the mindset of grinding and improving. The same goes for the country of football myth. It's part of Brazil's identity, but it can also hide real problems. Weak investment in youth development, lack of public policy, poor management. This seductive idea that Brazilians are just born to play ball can lead to complacency, while other countries are advancing with strong structures and modern methods. That's why it's so important to point out that Brazil's real edge comes from culture, futsal, street games, improvisation, and creativity, not genes. That cultural legacy fuels technique and imagination, but it only turns into top-level performance when paired with structured training, discipline, and professionalism. At the end of the day, the future of Brazilian football depends on balancing art and hard work, celebrating the magic that produces stars, but also doubling down on effort, structure, and dedication. That's what keeps Brazil a true powerhouse in world football. Do you like this content? Subscribe for more in-depth analysis. Take care.